welcome to Support You's new podcast series. I am Lorna McArdle, Support You CEO and today's presenter. Support You have recently secured funding from the Police and Crime Commissioners, and as a result of this we are able to create campaigns against domestic abuse to support the many victims. Today we have not only one but two exciting guests to introduce you to. Today we are joined by Trilby James, who is an actor and director in her own right, but her wife is Shelley King, who is currently playing Yasmeen Nazir in Britain's longest running soap, ITV soap opera Coronation Street. I'm sure most of you will be all aware Shelley is currently playing an emotional, challenging role of an abuse victim. The performance has raised much awareness over the nation, reflecting domestic abuse in a different light. Support You would like to praise and thank ITV and Coronation Street for taking on a huge responsibility and committing to a storyline like this, and equally to Shelley and supporting actors who have pursued this role with such success and reality. Shelley, as the face of our campaign, is not only using her talent to raise awareness and promote support, but she is also a proud member of our community, the LGBTQ+ community. Shelley takes pride in her identity as a lesbian from a minority group. We could not be more thrilled to have her as our special guest. We talked for so long, we are going to make this a series of intersexuality, COVID and the LGBT+ community. Shelley, thank you for agreeing to do this interview with us and being the face of our much needed campaign against domestic abuse within the LGBT+ community. The team, service users and I are very excited as this is our first opportunity to do an interview and campaign like this, and we couldn't be more thrilled that we are joined by the nation's most spoken about soap character, you.
Wow. It's the nation's most spoken about soap, and I don't do it alone. There's a huge team of people behind me, all backing this storyline because it's so important. So thank you as well.
So, you about your research methods within Corrie when it came to being the victim of a domestic abuse, and of course being the pro that you are and a successful actress. Was it as straightforward, or did it find it was challenging to relate to and perform with the theme?
I suppose, and Trilby's a wonderful director and an actress. And I think that, I have grown up, as have you, being an actor, and every project you do, whether it is theatre or television, you have to get under the skin, whether it's Lady Macbeth or Yasmeen Nazir. You have to find out as much as you can about the life of this character. In a play, you have somebody writes it, but you still have to work. You still have to understand it. In modern plays, you have to know where the person comes from, what their history is, what they were, to whom they were born, where they were born, why they do the things they do. But it's a play, so you have that all, and you make that journey. You make different actors make different choices in the journey and the framework of a play, which is why there are so many different Hamlets, for instance, and different interpretations of Hamlet, I think, totally. But when we get something in Corrie, and Corrie has dealt with a lot of social issues, male rape, suicide, rape, female rape, huge issues that have been quite controversial. And, Coronation Street comes into people's front rooms. So it's very real. It's very real. And you have to talk to real people. And Women's Aid have been so helpful, and various organizations have been so helpful to introduce us to men and women who, although the majority are women, who have gone through and suffered this form of both physical and mental abuse. And it's been quite, some of the things we've heard are so difficult to imagine, that we have to make a decision to show you, the audience, as much as we can because some of the horror is so extraordinary that if we showed it in all its intensity, you wouldn't be able to watch it.
Yeah.
People would become, they can't do this, that's sort of what we do in Corrie. We let you see the hurt and the pain to a point, and then you have to just you have to use your imagination and hope. We hope that you will also understand, and then look at this situation and feel about these people, and maybe look up that particular form of abuse yourself. And if you are in the midst of that abuse, you can see on screen somebody who is actually going through the same thing that you are, and take hope from that and say, look, people know about this. I'm not mad. There are people going through this, and you know, there's a phone.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when we bring it back to being LGBT, there are very few organisations that can help, but there is Gallup and there is ourselves.
There are organisations.
And because what they don't realise, a lot of people don't realise within our own community, about a quarter of our community is in a domestic abusive relationship.
Yeah, I have talked to LGBT people, men and women, and trans men who have been, and women who have been just that. People come and talk all the time, or they write. So yes, it's a human disability or illness.
But are you saying, Lorna, that obviously the proportion is higher in the LGBT community?
Yeah, if you, as always with mental health and domestic abuse, if you put it side by side with other communities, we seem to have a bigger drug problem. We have bigger domestic abuse problems because we're not reaching out. We're hiding all the time, including our relationships, and we stick with them. And the same with our mental health. People don't correspond our mental health with society's reaction to us. And that's why.
Because life hasn't been easy, and it's been a hard, and you do tend to, if once you've made that choice, and I think that's what happened to me in my very first relationship, having not, you know, wondering at 27, 28, if I'll ever be able to have the relationship I want. I found somebody who was a lovely person, but also had issues because of religion. And
she was damaged. And she was largely damaged because of her sexuality, or not because of her sexuality, because of her parents' inability to accept.
Her mother, really.
Well, you know, her mother's inability to accept her sexuality. So it's not the sexuality that's the problem. It's the rest. It's the society.
But the thing is, yeah, I know.
If we have a message towards parents right now, is when your child comes to you and says they're gay or they're trans, it will help them immensely with their mental health to not spiral and cause themselves self-harm, suicide thoughts. It will alleviate all of that by a lot. It will bring down that suicide rate hugely just by listening.
And you've got to know that you are not alone. You are not alone out there. Not now. I mean, you know, this is not 30, 40 years ago, and it was difficult. Now people are talking. There are people like you. There are no organizations. We have Pride every year. Even this year, we try to have a sort of
very basic level. You know, there's nothing wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Quite simply that, you know. But we know, we've had friends, Shelley, whose parents reacted really badly when they came out, were worried that, you know, anyway, I mean, we don't want to sort of go into too much detail, but some of the impulse of the parent might have been protective, you know, to protect, but actually that communicated itself in a really, really negative way. And made that transition very, very difficult for that person.
It's about fear, isn't it? So we shouldn't. We all fear the unknown, don't we? That's the problem.
I think a lot of us fear rejection from our loved ones, which is the biggest driver, I think, from hiding and not being thrown out on the streets. Which is still happening, unfortunately. What is it? 40% of those that are homeless on the streets are LGBT. I don't know if you might not have seen this, but University of Gloucestershire, coming back to your domestic abuse thing, is that they've identified 8 steps from someone who is from controlling to actually homicide, And looking at your storyline, you probably got yourself to number 4 out of them, which is the risk starts to rise. And number 5 is then escalation. But in your storyline, you actually
reached. I think escalation was reached when Yasmeen actually defended herself against him, attacked him, and she didn't know what she was doing. But had that not happened, and we have already met somebody, a former partner, have we not, to whom it has escalation at its peak, in that he has physically abused this other person.
Yeah. We don't know what he's done with his ex-wife yet, do we?
Well, we met another person who claims to be his ex-wife, haven't we? Yeah. We will find out whether she is. But, you know, we have seen points of escalation, possible points of escalation, and we have seen this has been going on for 2 years.
It's the loss of control of you is what escalates them.
Yeah.
And number 5 is, number 6 is where they decide to give up and move on to somebody else.
Yes, but that's also happening.
Or they up their game again towards someone's side.
To Yasmeen, that happened as well, because we find out that he's been going to prostitutes. We've already found that out.
That's
so the next stop would have been getting rid, or I assume 7 is a physical abuse.
But it's actually, number 7 is actually planning the death.
Yeah.
Homicide.
Okay, but Lorna, you're talking about the abuser and those steps.
Yes,
not
the
abuse.
No, I see. What I'm saying is that we've been going through for 2 years, which in soap terms is a lifetime. Following this story, and Barty, Ian Bartholomew, and I started off as sort of, you probably don't remember, but Terry and June, you know, quite a happy, funny couple. And people thought, oh, they're going to get really, at last, Yasmeen's found happiness, and he's really good. He's Tim's dad, and they're really funny people, and they enjoy the same things, and da-da-da-da. And gradually, you get little hints of it. So 2 years is a long time. So I think we are trying to follow those steps as described by the people, you know, the script writers, the producers have taken a huge amount of care to get advice from organizations who deal with and are trying to help people in just this situation. So I think we've sort of reached, when that happened, we sort of reached, I think, about coming to 4 or 5.
Yeah, but I suppose it's from Jeff's point of view rather than
no, it's from her.
view.
Well, it's never from my point of view. It's also from it's the abuser's point of view, isn't it? But also, you know, we then had shutdown, which has meant we had to still try and keep the storyline that was planned, but obviously it's had to have different. It's had, because I was then in prison, so there wasn't any point. I would have been out of prison sooner for various, but that didn't happen. So she's been in prison, and prisoners weren't allowed to see anybody. You know, now I'm starting. You'll see to have, and there'll be the next stage, and we will start the next stage of what we were planning now. But there's been so we've had a bit of a in our bit of a pause, eine kleine Pause in the.
Well, one of the things that we're promoting right now, is just gone out today, is actually how to support somebody that might be in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So we've given some tips about trusting, believe in them and validate their feelings, and obviously help them to develop a safety plan if they need to, and to let them know what organisations are available. Would you have any? What would you also add to our little?
There are organisations. There Women's Aid, for instance, is everywhere. There's oh God, my mind is gone a blank now. If you look up domestic abuse, you'll see Women's Aid there. You can also see oh gosh,
well, they've had to adapt as well. All of the professional services like Women's Aid and Berkshire Women's Aid that we have locally, they had to explore. They wouldn't let men appear, you know, come along to their meetings. But of course, when 2 women came along, the other woman was allowed. And it was like, oh, we need to change the way we work. So they've all adapted and evolved this process.
Well, also, of course, you know, women can abuse men. I mean, so this can happen. I know it's less, you know, a common.
But it does happen. I've heard. I've been talking to a man to whom it happened anyway. You know, so.
Well, one of my passions is hopefully to give men more voices anyway, with relating to domestic abuse with men. But the fact that men aren't allowed to feminize in society, which is why we have the issues with the difference between cross-dressing and trans and all of those issues, when actually all it is allowing men to feminize and like pretty things, and that's all it would be, compared to us women. Because I get asked when I do, they say, do you know any cross-dressing women? And I just look around the room and go, we all are.
Yeah, a lot of us, isn't there? There's a lot of us wearing ties.
I think pretty much every woman in the country has worn a pair of trousers.
Yeah.
Probably a shirt that looks a bit more work-related. This brings us to the end of our first interview. Look out for some more videos in a series of interviews we have had with Shelley and Trilby. Thank you again. We couldn't have wished to collaborate with such a wonderful couple. In regards to support you, if you are struggling, need someone to talk to, we are here for you. We offer a range of support services, all in which are free. From counselling, support sessions, a helpline, live web chat, support groups, hate crime reporting, and of course, domestic abuse support. If you would like to support us, to help us to support you, you can donate at www.supportyou.org.uk and click the green donate button in the top right corner. Every penny makes a huge difference, and we are everlasting grateful to each and every one who supports our organisation. It's your organisation. If you are unable to donate right now, we understand as times are challenging. However, if you would still like to support our organisation, you can do this for free. Please share our social media posts and help us get our name out there. We aim to support and help as many LGBT+ individuals as possible in Reading and the Thames Valley. Our support team on the front line are trained in a variety of subjects, including domestic abuse and sexual abuse. If you would like to seek support, guidance and/or help, please contact us on 0118 321 9111, Monday to Friday. Alternately, please email us at support@supportyou.org.uk, and remember, Support You stands with you.
Mine's almost like a dress, Laura.
You can buy these, they're wonderful. Buy these, guys, everybody buy it. Look,
I don't know if you can see, but it's, I could wear it as a dress. All day. How about that?
Why not?
Yeah,
you see?
Love it.
one garment, many different opportunities to explore. You see, you can cut it down a bit, you can make it like, wonderful. Anyway.